Welcome to week number 5. All right, I have some cool secrets that I plugged in here for you. So you'll see that the week here is pretty normal compared to what we've been doing. We have the hill repeats. The one thing that I'll say here is too, we have a tempo run walk session in there as well, and it's listed for 90 minutes. And if you haven't figured this out at this point, if anything is never described, consider it zone 1-2. So the run walk portions will obviously not take 90 minutes. But whatever isn't described, the rest of the run is zone 2. Practice walking. You can still run very fast, definitely under 3:30, even down to about 3 hours if you do some walk runs. If you look at Jan Frodeno several years ago when he won the first time, he walked the aid stations. You want to make sure that if you do plan on walking the aid stations, which is a good idea, especially if you're racing somewhere hot, because that's going to allow you to absorb some nutrition, cool your temperature down a little bit, reset neuromuscularly. And it's not always about going faster at the beginning of the race, but making sure you don't slow down at the end of the race, which is really what it's all about. This is an opportunity to practice how you're going to start running after you walk. One of the things that I would do is imagine that my feet are in carbon boots. So if this is obviously not my foot, but if my foot was there, it's very stiff. So a lot of times when you start to walk, it's very like this. Just imagine it being more stiff, lean forward from the ankles, and you'll get right back into your running. The other thing that you'll notice too is on Saturday, I gave you some options if you want to do an example set that I would give my athletes to do depending on the race conditions. So for example, some of the elite age groupers and even pros that I've coached for Kona, they went through the first 40K very quick, right? So you're up and down Elite U Drive. Kokini Highway, you're getting out to the Queen K. The pros, you have to make that front group. And a lot of times they do that first 40K in under 56 minutes. So they had to train for that high intensity. And then it would kind of calm down a little bit. And then they'd have to climb the Hawi and then coming back. So what we did was we designed an effort in a long ride where you would be doing 5-minute efforts, 4-minute efforts, some 20s, 30s, that type of stuff. And the efforts would be decreasing just like they would in the race. But for the 2 30-minute efforts on the end, it says best effort, but it's based on how you feel, right? So it's kind of like you're not doing FTP tests, but do the best you can. But ask yourself, how hard can I go given the fact that I have 2 of these 30-minute efforts left? The other thing is if you want to get off the bike, it says a 15-minute run off the bike. I can tell you there are people who have won Ironman several times that really have never ran more than 3 miles off the bike in training because they don't see the need and they had success with it. I personally found my sweet spot was about 45-minute run off the bike. And here's another little tidbit. I found at 3 hours and 30 minutes or faster, okay, you had to be able to transition run in training for that 45-minute run off the bike at about 45 seconds per mile faster than you planned on running in the race. That was a pretty good indicator of what you could potentially do in the race. So if you're coming off the bike and you're running goal pace and you're struggling to run your goal pace, I hate to break it to you, but you're probably going to need to readjust your goal pace to about 30 seconds slower than you're actually running right now because that's not going to happen. So try to start off at your goal pace and then drive it down throughout that course of the transition run down to about 40 seconds per mile faster than your goal pace. And that's going to be a lot more indicative of your ability to perform on race day. You'll notice too that we have the long run as well as a brick session. So if you want to scrub the bike before that, honestly, most of the times I would just go out for a long run and I would keep it between 2.5 hours. I rarely would run over 2.5 hours. And again, making sure that you keep it under that 3-hour mark. And go ahead, and if you want to do that, that's fine. Logistically, if that creates an issue for you, don't beat yourself up too much about that. So that's my tips for this week, and I'll see everybody in week 6.